Hey there, I'm Butch. If being a galactic space Karen ain't your cup of tea, we instead have the opposite side of the spectrum, the human calculators or the Mentats. Let's dive into their skill tree and get it nice and oversimplified for you. The Mentat skill tree generally focuses on ranged damage, crowd control, and utility support skills, and well, that's it. In fact, there is not a whole lot of reasons to enter this skill tree if you're focusing entirely on melee attacks, aside from maybe a utility skill. However, they do tend to pair quite nicely with the Hold Your Beer Trooper line and combine and ranged damage abilities. Let's start with the mental calculus skill tree. This tree lets them shoot better, essentially. Starts with one active skill, the sentry turret, that will put continuous fire down range until things stop moving or its timer runs out. Very effective weapon if your skill is high enough level to do effective damage. Otherwise, it's like running through a sprinkler system that sprinkles darts instead. It does seem to go through enemy shields though, which can be helpful on chunky shielded boys. Hitting the button the first time drops the turret onto the ground, and hitting it again will activate it. But that cooldown doesn't start ticking until the turret's entirely gone though. You can try to be inventive and stick them to walls if you want, though it doesn't really seem like it's intended to work that way. This tree does have a decent chunk of passives. Ranged damage does, well, what you'd think, and increases range damage. And pistol damage, surprise surprise, does the same thing for weapons classified as pistols. And man, would you believe it, but the rifle damage passive does the same thing, but for weapons classified as rifles. On the other side, you got a few passives for keeping your outfit looking prim and pretty. Garment Keeper lets you reduce durability loss, and tailoring lets you reduce max durability loss when you have to repair them. Finally, the last passive is Shield Overcharge. This passive lets you pinpoint a vulnerability in a target shield and plank that over and over to do an extra chunk of shield damage on every hit. Basically, just keep shooting the shield in the blinky red spot and the shield goes bye-bye faster. This requires you to be high on that sweet, sweet purple spice to use though. The techniques available here are Marksman, which gives you increased damage when you pop them in the noggin, and Exploit Weakness, which lets you do more range damage to unshielded enemies if you hit the target in the pinpointed blinky location. Pretty useful for unshielded bosses, and not so great for General Explorer when everyone and their grandmother has shields. In the Assassination skill tree, the Mentat combos range damage add-ons with poison skills and range damage or CC abilities, otherwise known as crowd control. The first active skill here, Poison Capsule, lets you shoot out a poison spore cloud to inflict a poison condition on enemies for some dot or damage over time effect. If you really like making your enemies choke on your sand-infused fart clouds, you can also take the Poison Mind ability for even more poison spores, if you can get the enemy to walk on it, or don't mind it blowing up in your face the second you put it down. The real problem these skills have is they don't seem to do all that much damage, though their damage may be more effective in PvP. There is a technique to go with these abilities if you are a true poison damage fanboy, and that only true believers will take. We'll get to that here in a minute. The next active ability is called the Stunner. This shoots a dart at the target that if it hits, it stuns them for a total of 6 seconds, which is plenty of time to shoot them in the noggin, though the skill comes with a heavy 35-second cooldown. After that is Hunter Seeker, which is basically a poke the enemy and watch them kill over stick of death. However, to use it, you gotta pilot it like any good drone pilot, which leaves you vulnerable to angry Karens who sneak up behind you with that Karen step ability. In addition, it has a piddly maximum range, and it also aggroes enemies, as the drone is not at all stealthy from what I can tell, so they will attempt to shoot the bejeebus out of it if they see it. They also, for some reason, immediately lock onto your location sometimes and start shooting at you too. It also has an enormous cooldown of 60 seconds and forces your shield off while you're using it. Yeah, if you can get that sucker to poke someone, you can do some big damage, and you can make it move a bit faster with the Q button, but from my experience, it is very not worth taking. Please feel free to correct me in the comments with how it's an amazing weapon and how I'm a big dum-dum about it so I can test your scenarios out myself. Now, for those folks who are really into poison, the true believers, the #1 fans of poison, let's look at this one technique in the line, the poison tooth. This ability sticks a nasty gas-filled tooth in your mouth that spits out a poison cloud if you die. Now, being that your goal is typically not to die, I would generally advise against it, but hey, more power to you if you're into that kind of stuff. The passives in this tree are fairly simple. They increase your headshot damage, and, well, Assassin Shot will increase your backside damage. Great for a Karen Step shotgun combo. Finally, Tactician gives you a massive load of skills to pick from. They give you different support options for a team, and the ability to say no to any space Karens if you still have some stamina left in your body. First off is Shield Wall, which can be nifty to drop down some instant cover for you and your buddies. This is especially useful in fights where there is no cover, like most of the boss rooms and the overland testing stations at the time of this recording. The downside being that several weapon types cannot seem to properly fire over the shielded targets on the same elevation as them, making it frustrating for folks using these types of weapons. You can desummon the shield if you get it wrong, or if all your targets are dead to get its cooldown started, and it does act like a big old pile of molasses if someone tries to move on through it. Solido Decoy is a skill best used by clever players or against stupid bots or stupid people. It has a 23-second cooldown and a 15-second duration, which can sometimes get enemies to shoot at and attack it. It's great for getting enemies to sometimes leave you alone if they feel like it, and sometimes they just ignore it and shoot you anyway. First press drops it on the ground, your second press will activate it so it starts shooting in a random direction. The third press starts it moving in which direction you happen to be looking at when you press the button. This will run into walls and other objects and attempt to slowly press its way around them if there's an option to do that. The fourth press does make the decoy end early. There's quite a lot of button pushing with this one. Gravity Mine is like a gravity grenade but in mine form. It can technically slow projectiles and slow enemies down while draining their power. However, your target has to walk on it first, and unless they are AI, they tend to not want to do that. The bullet effect is hard to notice unless it's just reducing damage, which I couldn't tell, but the drain shield effect can be really helpful when you're dealing with a bunch of shielded fillers. Anti-gravity mine is like the gravity mine, but, opposite. This lifts up enemies into the air or lets you negate fall damage if you can get it to go off below you. However, it is again a mine, meaning fellas gotta step on it before it can be used. Good luck stepping on it before you hit the ground. Actually, I lied a little bit. You can activate the thing by tapping the button again, but you can't use it mid-air, so you have to go down to the bottom, set the mine up, go back up top, and then jump down and activate it before you jump. It feels like pretty useless for that sort of effect to me, but I mean, maybe you might use it like that once or twice. Now, a few additional notes about all your mines. Like I mentioned, you can activate them manually by hitting the button a second time. In addition, like many of your deployables, an enemy can shoot them to destroy them before they go off too. I did try to activate both the gravity mine and the anti-gravity mine at once, and they do seem to cancel each other out, which makes sense. They're like opposites, so they should do that. But I thought I would try it just to... Anyways, unfortunate, but it does make sense. The final skill here is a doozy called Source of Power. It lets you drop a big old power generator on the ground that increases your team's power generation for the duration by 30%. With a 35-second cooldown and a 20-second duration, you can keep this baby running for a good chunk of most fights. Just don't ask me where the Mentats are pulling that sucker out of. I really don't want to know. I don't think you want to either. Finally, the one technique in the mental calculator Tactician toolset is anti-Karen protection. For the cost of 20 stamina, you can resist incoming Karen abilities, allowing you to stand up for your fellow employees when Karen demands y'all come here so she can pummel you with her space purse and other stabby weapons. In all, Mentat abilities are usually best combined into supporting builds and ranged damage builds. With my own mostly melee and shotgun build, I use almost nothing out of this tree except for the assassin shot and ranged damage passives. If you're going full melee, you can probably just about completely ignore this tree, unless there's a specific utility skill you want, or if you just want to resist your local Karen squawking. I will admit that Mentat abilities can be useful when combined with each other to lay down some effective traps. A turret stuck inside of either field can be highly annoying to enemies, and a drill shot and a shielded fellow stuck in an anti-grav mine is very dangerous, as I found out getting stuck in my own anti-grav mine over and over and over again as I tried to learn how to use it. You might be able to camp a testing station with some of these things and ambush someone with them, though I'd figure a rocket blast to the face would do about the same thing though. Next time, we got ourselves galactic mall ninjas. Make sure to subscribe and stick around to learn more about these crazy weebs. If I missed something, which I missed at least one thing, make sure to let me know by complaining in the comments so we can all see how I done screwed up. Till next time, good luck with your calculus, Mentats.